Women doctors, we hear you. We know your struggles. We know what it's like to be a female doctor in this dominant world. And guess what? Dr. Summer Casmel and myself teamed up together and created Women Dentists Connect. We wanted to create a safe, educational, and inspirational place to come and ask those crazy questions that you don't want to ask. We know that being a female doctor is different than it is for male doctors. You just have different issues, different questions, different concerns. So Dr. Summer Casmel and I are actually hosting a live event in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona on October 11th and 12th. This is for women doctors and their teams. We're talking business. We're talking issues that female doctors face. We're talking team breakouts, how to really rally your team. And we're giving you hundreds of tangibles that you can take home and implement Monday morning. We're also having an amazing lineup of speakers where you'll actually get CE for attending. So come on in. We can't wait to see you. We only have a handful of people that we're allowing in. So run on over to womendentistsconnect.com. Use the coupon code podcast to get the Dental 18 family coupon. Guys, I cannot wait. I would love to see you there. I'd love to connect with you, learn from you, and share. So hop on over Women Dentists Connect. I can't wait to see you in October. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental 18 podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Mark Costas.
Mark and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental 18 podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Mark and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
Two perspectives, one mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental 18 podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas, with fatigued voice, but worth it to be on the microphones this morning because I get to hang out with my buddy, Kiera Dent. How's it going today, Kiera?
Mark, it's so good. I feel we haven't podcasted in ages. It's so good to hear your voice, and it doesn't sound fatigued, so it might be that like sexy mic that you've got going on today because there's no fatigue on my end when I hear you. So yeah. Nice work on that.
You know how it is, like those the rock stars like smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day to get that raspy voice. All I have to do is speak at 3 conferences in a row in 3 weeks and get no sleep, and I get the raspy voice without having to smoke. So it's a great trade-off.
Solid win. I think you should pick up you can sing like Adele. So maybe next time we should just karaoke and see how you do. I think that's a great idea.
I like it. How you been? How you be?
How you be? I'd be good over here. I've been really good. How have you been? We've been just ships in the night. We cross and paths, and yeah. I've been busy and good and taking time for business. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm looking at the placard that my kids gave me for Christmas this year, and it says, "Every day I'm hustling," and that's what I feel like. I'm hustling every day. Like this morning, I get up and I do my normal morning routine, and then I bring my son Bryce to school, and then I had a meeting with Jake, a little debrief about the business immersion event, and then hopped on with you for this awesome podcast. And then I have a consultation at 8, and this is all before 8 now. Now, 8 o'clock, I have like an official consultation with one of the awesome doctors that I met at the immersion event. And then I go and I see patients all day long until 4 o'clock. And then I have 3 meetings after that. So it's going to be a day. It's going to be a day. And you're right in the first part of it. So thank you for hanging out with me this morning. And what do you want to talk about? You always have great topics. We just turn on the mics and then we riff, but you always have great topics because
we never pre-script these ever.
No. I got to say, I was at the Dental Whale Business Immersion event this past weekend, and there was 900 people in the audience, and I spoke 4 times, which is fatiguing but also energizing. And I have to say, we made the mistake of not having a booth or a place to kind of plant ourselves. And I felt like I was doing a whole lot of talking in the hallways. So I would have 6 hours in between one of my talks. I would get off stage and then I'd be talking for 6 straight hours, one person after the other. And it reminds me of kind of how many different types of practices are out there, how many different types of challenges people have. But in the grand scheme of things, there's only a handful of challenges that arise over and over and over again. So I was definitely
Absolutely.
reminded of those themes and those patterns that you and I see every single day in the trenches consulting with dentists.
Totally, 100%. And it's interesting because I was chatting with another gal the other day, and she said, every office thinks that they're different and they're unique. And Mark, you and I were chatting about, don't worry, in the background of everything else that we're doing, you and I are still trying to work on our book that we're writing together. And I remember, don't worry, guys, just add that.
I'm on page 3. So is that good? Is it going to be a 6-page book? You get 3, I get 3.
Yeah, and we're also going to be like a color by number in there, so you guys have like interactive, because that's what we do.
It's going to be fully illustrated. It's a picture. It's a kid's book. It's a picture book. So I'm done.
Hey,
I'm done with my writing.
Complexity is the enemy of execution, so we're keeping it real simple. 6 pages of solid nuggets of coloring. So
I like it.
Guys.
I like it. It's a book or it's a magazine article. One of the two.
But we decided. I remember you and I were chatting about how but my office is different was one of the titles that we had talked about doing. But the reality is every office, even though we think we're unique, I don't want to discredit that offices are unique with their own unique struggles, but I think you're unique just with the players in it. And your struggles are actually very common across the board. And not to make that sound trite or trivial, but I do think that when you can recognize that you're in the same race with everybody else, and your trials and your challenges and your experiences are not really unique. It's just the players that are in there. That means that there's an answer and a solution for every practice out there. It's really not that hard. It's very simple. It makes it seem a lot more freeing and a lot more liberating, and a lot more doable to also know that people are just like you, and you're not in a trite, trivial way. You're not as unique and complex as you think you are. Everybody else is in the same boat with you, and there really is, Mark. When I break it down, I'm like, there's between 5 to 12 themes that I constantly just come up against over and over and over again, and that's all it really is.
For sure. My favorite graphic is I did a whole 60 minutes on leadership. And this is funny about the immersion event. They gave me the opening keynote. They gave me the 240 spot where I was talking about cash flow. I called it the oxygen of your business. That was day 1. And then day 2, they had me the opening keynote in front of all 900 people. And then all the vendors came in too. There's probably 1,000 people in that room. It was huge. And then I did my regular opening keynote. Talked about operational systemization and cash flow and overhead control, et cetera. And then, so 8:30 in the morning on Saturday, and then they had me close at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was like, I'm going to be speaking to the janitor and the housekeeping crew that's going to be wrapping up the linens, but it was a packed house. Everybody stayed.
That's awesome.
Till the end.
That's
so
really good. I
spoke just about leadership, that last one. And, I always start when I'm talking about leadership, I start with this graphic, and all this encompasses, just like you were talking about, the handful of challenges that nearly every dental office that's struggling encounters. So picture 3 concentric circles, overlapping circles. The first one is culture. The second one is operational systemization. And the third one is overhead and cash flow control. And if you draw a big circle around that, the thread that holds it all together is leadership. So within any of those 4 circles is where our struggles lie. Sometimes it's in all 4 circles. Sometimes it's in just one. But once you can identify that, kind of hone in on that, just eliminate all the noise, prioritize, focus on what that challenge is, there's always a solution. And there's thousands of people that have the same challenge, and many of them have figured out how to get through that challenge. And that's kind of the benefit of hanging out with people that speak to hundreds and hundreds of dentists every single month, is that we see these patterns and themes over and over again. And we kind of know what the best practices have done to get over, through, or past those obstacles.
For sure. I love that visual, Mark, because as you were saying that, I was thinking, you're right. Those are, and I mean, I remember I was just making up the avatar for the Dental A team, and we call it Danny the Dentist. And our tagline became, we build systems, you build wealth. And it's wealth of time, wealth of cash flow, and wealth of accountable teams, which tie right into your exact same thing, just a difference of how we say it. But you're absolutely right. It is that leadership that's the overarching realm. I mean, there are so many offices that I'll walk into and I will literally give you the tools. Like, hey, I can totally see your office. I've seen it over and over and over again. But at the end of it, if you as the leader aren't willing to implement and execute and hold strong and eliminate that noise, things won't change. And I think that that's a bigger piece that I see is people have it. They know what the systems are. They know a lot of these pieces. And if you don't, that's fine. Like there's plenty of places out there. I mean, Mark, I giggle because I think of you saying YouTube University. Like it's really just out there. You just have to go look for it. There's the podcast. There's so many places. The answers are out there, what you need to do. But I think it's really that self-mastery piece of, and Mark, you and I are guilty of this. I feel like we have like shiny object syndrome where we love to build new things. We love.
What are you talking? I do not. What are you talking about?
Look,
I have 32 different startup companies happening simultaneously. What?
It's fine. It's all good. But like and it's more fun. It's so much more fun to build something different. And I have to constantly have my team like rein me back in. And as a leader, I feel my job of self-mastery is, like, does this fit into one of those three circles? And if not, cut it out and don't get distracted by it, because complexity is the enemy of execution. Simplicity is where it lies. But yet we want to make it more complicated. We want to work on all these pieces. But I mean, I was doing a podcast with Darren Flesher this morning, and
stud.
I think he is such a stud. And I think one of the reasons he does so well and he doesn't have chaos like flowing through his life is because he is so good at closing the door, eliminating the distractions, laser focusing, and making a system that works independent of him, that frees him up, and he's able to have a ton of time to then go on and build other things without having the chaos that I think surrounds so many other people.
Yeah.
And then you have a bad culture. Then you don't have the optimization. Then you don't have cash flow because you're constantly bombarded by distractions instead of really self-mastering yourself.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like, oh gosh, eliminating those distractions is so huge. And, you know, I've struggled with ADD my whole life, and, my eldest son, has the same struggles where he has a hard time sitting down and, being able to focus on test questions and formal tests and stuff. So they've made concessions with him, which is great. Just like they kind of had to for me. And I sat him down and I was like, "Hey buddy, I know this is hard. And I know that it's not fair where you have difficult time concentrating. And the other kids, it seems super easy for them. But if you learn how to harness this, like I was able to, it could be your superpower, right? You can turn that attraction to many different things into like a laser-like focus that will propel you past anybody else. But you have to be aware that this is you, and you have to figure out how it is to eliminate those distractions, and you have to have the discipline to push through it. So I was like, buddy, don't worry. Right now it feels like a sickness. Right now it feels like a challenge, but it's actually your superpower. If you can harness it, you can go really, really far in every area of your life if you learn how to harness that focus.
For sure. Absolutely. And I think every dentist out there, I mean, some people are not motivated. Like that's their struggle. Some people are overly motivated. Some people are like systems gurus, but they over systematize. Some people have no clue and they're just chaos, like whirlwinds. I think everybody falls in a different spectrum. But like you said, if you're aware of it, you can identify it, and then you work really hard to overcome it, that then does become your superpower, and you're able to grow in whatever realm. But like you said, I think it's super important for people to realize there are really 12 issues out there. That's it. There's really not a lot more than that. But it just depends on, like you said, that overarching circle of leadership of who you are and how you attack all those different areas within the person that you are. Because, gosh, extreme ownership, we've gone back to that so many times in the course of knowing you, Mark, that the ownership piece and the leadership piece of who you are as a person will impact every single one of those circles for good or for bad, depending upon how you execute on it.
For sure. Let me just go back here to, I guess, the main theme of my talk, my hour-long leadership talk at the Immersion Summit. And, you know, a lot of people have this, I don't know, this idea that you have to be this super charismatic, like be able to get on stage and captivate people for, 4 hours, and like the energy in the room has to shift every time you're in there because you're just like this beacon of light and energy. That is not like that's good to have charisma, but it's not necessary to be an effective leader. All you really need to be an effective leader is to have really super crystal clear expectations for the people that work for you and work on your team. Super clear expectations. They have to understand exactly what success looks like for their position, and you have to hold them accountable to those standards. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a micromanager, stand over their shoulder and watch every step of what they're doing. You as a leader have to be able to step back and say, okay, I am attached to the result here, not necessarily the process. So if you step back and you're a strong leader, you say, here's what I want the end result to look like. Here's the time frame I want this end result to be completed. And I'm going to let you have the authorship to get there. And I'm not going to micromanage you. I'm going to be a strong leader. I'm going to step back, but you give them a crystal clear definition of what that end result looks like, what success looks like for their position, a deadline, and you hold them accountable to do it.
For sure. People don't want to be micromanaged. We call it, I tell my team, I'm like, you've got creative control on this, like have at it. And I tell my team constantly, I say, I hired really brilliant people because I wanted to be surrounded by brilliant minds. So if I hired you to be that person, you need to execute on this project. You've got the ideas, you know what to do, have ownership on that. But like you said, Mark, as a team member, I can sit back and I can say, there were so many times that my doctor would look at me and it was almost as if they felt like I could read their mind. Like, Kiera, you should know this. You should know what I'm looking for. You should know how to set up the room.
I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of that my whole career. You know, it's like, come on. You should be able to read my mind by now. You've been with me for 3 years. It's like, no, nobody should be able to read anybody's mind.
And I think if you have to depend on that, you should check yourself. Clearly, I haven't set good enough expectations or systems. Like there's a broken piece in there. Because I remember a doctor I had, she would always look at me like, Kiera, you should know that I want this. And finally, one day I remember saying, if you don't voice it, how am I supposed to know what you actually want? Mm-hmm. You've got to tell me what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Because as a team member, my favorite thing was to make my doctor happy. I seriously loved sitting in the room. We were working and you didn't even have to tell me what instruments to hand you. And I could just make your life super easy and chat with you about whatever you wanted to that would make the patient giggle. So you were having a good time. I was having a great time. Patient was having a good time. And I could just work with you independently. And you knew I was like spot on 7 steps ahead of you at all times. Like, that was my favorite thing to do. As an office manager, I love to make your life easy. I love it to be where you walk into a meeting. I've got your agenda. I've got everything laid out for you. I've got the solutions for you. Like I am seriously 7 steps ahead of you. You ask, I hand you the paperwork. Like, I love doing that. I love to make my doctor happy. But I couldn't make you happy if I didn't know the circle you wanted me to play within. Mm-hmm. I couldn't make you happy if I didn't know what things you're looking for on the KPI that were super important to you. I would come to you thinking and working hard to make you happy, but then I'd get frustrated because I'd be working so hard in a direction that didn't actually make you happy. And so I think it's important for doctors to realize you've got team members that truly are just looking for ways to make you happy. We're looking for ways to make your life easier. So give us the outline. I mean, let's tie it all the way back to the beginning. Give us that paint by number. Tell us what shape you're looking for at the end of it. And then give us that creative control and we'll far exceed your expectations once we know what they are.
Yes. I love that, man. It's so true. It's so true. Gosh, with with being the dude that is doing the dentistry at one of my practices right now, we're actually onboarding my replacement. I had to step in because we lost an associate doctor kind of out of the blue. And so I had to step in, and how long's it been, Kiera? I've been back at the chair for it feels like forever, right? I've been back at the chair for
Mark.
like,
I said, Mark,
yeah.
I feel like you're kind of going back to, like, I feel like you're going to jail. Like, get your accounts in order. Like, because Mark, we talk to you all the time, and not that being a dentist is jail, but for Mark Costas, being a full-time dentist, that we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Like, get your accounts in order. What are we supposed to do while you're at the office all day long because you can't talk to us?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's great. I mean, there's clinical dentistry to me is, I mean, it's awesome. I missed it. I was gone completely, didn't pick up a handpiece for a year with the exception of our free dental days and missionary dentistry because I was running all of the other companies. But, you know, when I found myself in this situation where it was either we hired a bunch of temps or I went back in there to this practice, which is the one that's actually closest to my house. So it's actually quite convenient. I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And, you know, I am quote unquote full-time because I'm quite the producer and I'm able to produce what the previous associate was doing in just a few days a week. But It's really clinical dentistry, guys. If you take a break or you're doing it because not because you have to, but because you choose to, is totally different than I got to get to $5,000 in production today. I have to charge through this. I have to do all these procedures I don't like to do. It's totally different on the other side of it if you're choosing to do the dentistry or if it's not your primary source of income. And, it's funny, we were talking about at the last mastermind meeting, this whole concept of escape the chair. Alistair and I and Jake did this presentation about, how to create, I guess, revenue, personal income that's not totally dependent on producing dentistry. And it's not that the direction of the actual talk went in a surprising way for a lot of people. And what we were talking about wasn't necessarily maximizing your 401k or your IRA and saving that $8 million, which so many people have as their target over the next 30 years. It wasn't about that. It was about being able to run your dental practice, if it's a single one, two, or a regional group, so efficiently that the profit of the business could support you and your personal overhead, and not the actual production of your own two hands. You and I have a friend in Summer Casmel that was able to do that because she didn't have any other choice. She could no longer practice clinical dentistry because of a medical issue. And we've talked about it lots of times on my podcast with her before. And so she had to figure out how the practice could support her without doing the dentistry. And so we all know, everybody that's in DSI uses her as an example. We all know that it's totally possible. She's a business owner now, and she does Invisalign, but other than that, she doesn't do any dentistry. And she's a very sophisticated business owner. And that's exactly what we're talking about being able to use leadership, systemization, and eliminating those, a dozen challenges that you're talking about by focusing on the business and having the business support you. So I know I went off on a tangent there, but there's so much of this. There's so much of this that ties together.
And as you talked about it, Mark, I feel like the underlying theme that I've seen is, and I could, encompass it all within one word, and that is, I feel like it's discipline. And Mark, I've even watched you, so as an outsider, giving my 2 cents on your world in the last few months where you've had to be a dentist, I actually feel you've had more discipline because you've had to.
Yeah.
You have to go into dentistry. You're working in an 8-hour chunk. So your time outside of the office has been so much more utilized. Again, as an outsider, I have no clue. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're like, yeah, right, Kiera, that's not really what I am.
No, it's true.
But I think on the weeks when I'm home and I don't have an office that I'm going into, I'm so much more prone to taking naps, to finding 1,000 other things to do because I don't want to work on the hard projects. But yeah, I look at Summer and I think these really elite practices, the ones that have eliminated a lot of those issues, they don't go away. So don't get into the fallacy and actually define that, look, these are going to face you no matter what, because you'll always have new players in your world. You'll have different people. You'll constantly be innovating and changing. But when you're disciplined and you have that discipline, I think discipline goes right along with leadership, discipline of yourself. When you say we're going to go, we go. When you say you're going to work on these projects, you have the integrity within yourself to do it. When you say you're going to hold your team accountable, you do it. You train yourself to be that way so you're an example to your team who will then mimic and mirror you as well. And I really feel that don't wait for the day when you have all this free time away from the chair. Don't wait for the day when, when I go down to 3 days, I'll have more time. Or when I have an office manager, I'll have it. No, you're going to be the same person a year from now, 10 years from now, unless you change yourself now. And we watch so many people in DSI change and really start to discipline and hone themselves in. And they become so much greater than they ever would have been because they actually took that challenge and they did discipline themselves. They did take on that leadership and they refined themselves, which refined their team, which refined their cash flow, it just is a trickle down effect when you start with yourself in that leadership zone.
On that, what a great place to stop, especially since I have 3 minutes till my next call.
I was watching it like a hawk. I was like,
that was awesome.
Have a good ending point and done.
Oh gosh, I think we covered a lot in the last 25 minutes. Thank you, Kiera, so much for your time today. Can't wait to see you at the Women Dentist Connect Summit at the Scottsdale facility. Just 30 seconds on that really quick.
Yes, we're super excited. Dr. Summer Casmel, myself, and Mark We'll all be in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona, October 11th and 12th, 2 full days for women doctors and their teams, learning P&L, business talk. Summer and I were going over it this morning. Mark's going to talk numbers. We're going to talk about KPIs for every single position, building that win of a day, what that looks like for every single person in your office. And really, we even talk about like mom guilt and the fear, and there's studies that show what actual guilt looks like, and how damaging it can be to your family, and what truly winning and being around that can actually do to benefit your families and your kiddos. So lots of pieces we're diving into. We have breakout sessions. We've got 14 hours of CE. We've got Gina Dorfman coming in, Amanda Wilson. We've got Elizabeth Easley, Mark Costas. And we also have the final one is Olivia Berg. So we've got a really good speaker lineup as well. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm excited. We're really
I'm
excited.
the only dude that's going to be there, and I'm going to be there very briefly because I was just at Mommy Dentist, and that's a lot of estrogen. Those women were fantastic and energetic, and you guys will be too, but I'm going to be in and I'm going to be out. So it's going to be a safe place for all of you ladies. So Kiera, how do they sign up?
Just hop on over to womendentistconnect.com. Use the coupon code podcast so we know you heard it on Mark's podcast, and we'll see you guys in Arizona. It's going to be beautiful.
Thank you so much, Kiera. Have a wonderful day. I will talk to you very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, awesome. Kiera Dent.
And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.